Okay, so the other thing that's going to be important this semester to understand is the idea of homeostasis, the components of a homeostatic mechanism, and then how they work. So homeostasis, mostly, students equate homeostasis as a stability in the body, but you want to understand that homeostasis is a little bit more than that. It's a process, okay? And since it's a process, it needs components in order for that process to occur. The purpose of the process is to make sure that variables in the body remain stable. So we're just going to say like process to keep variable levels stable. Even if they change, okay? I know you shouldn't really need that whole like change part, but I need you to understand that those variable levels will change. They'll change because of internal or external influences. So think about this is going to be internal or external influences. Okay. What is a variable? A variable is anything in the body that we need to remain stable. So this could be things like oxygen concentration. This could be carbon dioxide concentration. This could be things like glucose, which is sugar concentration. This could be water levels, anything. It could be blood pressure. It could be heart rate. It could be urine output. All of those are variables that we have to have at a specific level, and we have to maintain that. Okay. I mean, maybe not so much urine output. Urine output is going to vary, and you want it to vary. Heart rate is also going to vary, but there's a homeostatic mechanism to help make sure heart rate doesn't go too high or too low. Okay. So the components of a homeostatic feedback mechanism are a couple fold. So one, you have to think about the fact that you are going to have a stimulus. A stimulus is going to be a change in the variable level. Okay, the body has variable level set points. So it has a range for each variable level. And the stimulus is basically going too high or too low above the range for a variable. So you want to think about this as like increase or decrease in variable levels. Number two has to be a receptor. And I think I also called this something else, but I forget what it is right now. Okay, so you have a receptor or you have a sensor. That was the other one. They're basically the same thing. The receptor or the sensor monitors for the variable level. Really simplistically, if you have oxygen levels, you have to monitor them. If you have carbon dioxide levels, you have to monitor them. How do I know if they change if I don't monitor for them? So I'm going to have a specific part of the body that monitors for all these variable levels. Okay, three is an integrator or a control center. This is normally the brain, but it can be other things. Essentially, the control center sets the variable range or the variable level. So it creates the set level / range for the variable. Meaning my oxygen has to be this much, my glucose levels have to be this much. And then what it does is it makes sure that if that range or level isn't met, that it tells the body how to deal with that. Okay. So it's going to set that level, and it's going to create a plan, an action plan, if you say, if you will. When the variable range is not met. We'll just say it's not correct. So 4 has to be effectors. Effectors are usually an organ, tissue, something in the body that's going to help us figure out how we're going to go back to how we're going to adjust our variable level. Okay. So we're just going to say this is structures in the body, like organs, cells, tissues, etc., that are going to help us adjust the variable level. When the control center tells them to. So five has to be the response. The response is basically, what does the effector do? What changes are the effector making? And number 6 is the result. Okay, the result could either be negative feedback, where you go back to normal, or positive feedback. In positive feedback, you're going to push the variable level. Until you hit some sort of over the top situation and you go back to normal. So you want to know these 6 components of a homeostatic mechanism, okay, or a homeostasis. There are a couple of ways that you can understand homeostasis. One of them, in one of the textbooks, draws it as a seesaw effect, where if your level, so if this is your normal level, or range, you'll have a stimulus that's either going to increase or decrease your normal variable level. And when you have that stimulus that's going to cause an increase in your stimulus or a decrease in your stimulus, that has to be monitored by your receptors / your sensors. Okay. It's the receptors that are going to send that information to our control center / integrator. And it's the integrator that sends it to an effector. Sorry about my handwriting. I'm just trying to write a little bit quicker. And this could be multiple effectors, okay? This is why the seesaw teeter-totter doesn't work very well, because you could have multiple effectors doing different things, right? They're going to have different responses. In this case, you have a result at the end. And if the result goes back to normal, this is negative feedback. So that's why a seesaw works for negative feedback. It doesn't quite work for positive feedback because basically you actually have to have this stimulus go higher. So you can't go back to normal. So in that case, the seesaw doesn't really work very well. But for negative feedback, it works pretty well. Okay. You can also just draw a diagram, a chart, if you will. So you'll see some charts like in other videos that I'll do about homeostasis, and I probably won't use a seesaw. I'm just probably going to draw kind of charts like this. And what you see is, yes, we have a stimulus, right? We're going to have a receptor. We're going to have a control center. We have effectors. We have a response. And then this is our result. The result is either a negative feedback. Basically, this turns the system off. As we go back towards the stimulus gets turned off. That's negative feedback. In a positive feedback mechanism, again, we have to have a stimulus. Okay, it's probably just not saying that right here. We have to have receptors. We have to have a control center. We have to have effectors. The response here, though, is that it's going to go right back up, and our receptors are going to sense more stuff happening. Okay. And what you see is they did that on the other side. Here, I have a plus arrow. So this is my result. Is I'm basically going to cause more or an increase in the stimulus here. And that's going to be received by my receptors more. And I'm going to go through this loop over and over and over and over again. And as I go through that loop over and over and over again, eventually I turn the system off over time, maybe, depending on what event. You do have to turn the system off in a positive feedback, but you're not going to do it immediately. It's going to take time, okay? So you can interrupt this cycle for childbirth. That's basically the baby gets born. And then you don't have any more pushing on those receptors. So the system has to turn off because the receptors aren't being stimulated anymore by the stimulus. So see the difference between positive and negative feedback. Positive feedback is rare. It only occurs in a couple instances. Childbirth is one of them. Another one is blood clotting, really the formation of a platelet plug. Female reproductive hormones are actually in a positive feedback mechanism. So kind of sucks for that cycle for women. It's like up and down and up and down and up and down. Okay. So that's some basic introductory stuff about homeostasis. We're going to continue understanding homeostasis throughout the semester, in particular when we get to the endocrine system. The endocrine system is primarily using homeostasis in order to maintain hormone levels and other variable levels.